A very good afternoon to you and many thanks for joining us on Citizen at 1. I am Kirigo Ngarwa. Parliament is set to reconvene for a special sitting this afternoon to debate a motion seeking to have Kenya pull out of the Rome Statute, thereby removing the country from the membership of the International Criminal Court. The motion is the only agenda on the table today on which members of Parliament will be expected to vote for or against. But before then, Jubilee and Quad coalitions are each currently holding special parliamentary group meetings to strategize on how to deal with the matter.
Members of Parliament were scheduled to reconvene on the 17th of September but had to cut short their recess and will now sit from 2:30 this afternoon for a special sitting called by the Deputy Speaker Joyce Laboso. On the table will be the motion to have Kenya withdraw its membership from the International Criminal Court. This just days before the Deputy President William Ruto and former journalist Joshua Arap Sang leave for The Hague for the commencement of their trial at the ICC. With members expected to cast their votes on the motion, both Quad and Jubilee members of Parliament have all morning been held up in parliamentary group meetings for strategy on how to handle the matter on the floor of the House. The Senate will be debating a similar motion on September 10th, with the leader of majority in the Senate, Kithure Kindiki, who is a proposer of the motion, also attending the Jubilee PG as a guest of the leader of the majority in Parliament, Aden Duale.
You seem to be failing to convince us here that this is not a demonstration of loyalty, sycophancy, if we want to be extreme. But have you considered, and several of our viewers are pointing this out, that your motion could actually backfire on the president and the deputy president, because they have stated that this is a personal challenge, and they have stated that they will cooperate with the International Criminal Court. And so you seem to be at odds.
One, I think I have a history. And history will judge me. I mean, I have never been a sycophant. But again, on the idea of divergent views, I don't mind if people call me sycophant.
The International Criminal Court has since dismissed as inconsequential the move to withdraw from the Rome Statute, saying that it will have no effect on the ongoing Kenyan cases. Should the motion pass, a bill to repeal the International Criminal Crimes Act that domesticated the Rome Statute will have to be introduced within 30 days after the passing of the bill. Esther Kahumbi, Citizen at 1.
Well, let's head over to Parliament buildings, where Associate Editor Alex Chamwada is on standby to give us an update of what's going on that side and what is expected this afternoon. A very good afternoon to you, Alex. Different strategy meetings taking place this morning. Have you been able to speak to anyone from either camps to find out more on what to expect this afternoon?
Kirigo, of course, the debate on that motion begins at 2:30. That is, during that special sitting, they will be convening for only that business, then they continue with their recess. What I've gathered from the Jubilee side is that they are confident that the motion will pass, so the strategy meeting is on really the steps ahead or after passing the motion, what next. And Quad, of course, are also meeting. I was told by Honorable Jacoyo Midiwo that they would be seeking to oppose the recall of MPs from recess on the argument that it is not a national issue, or rather what they are coming to discuss is not very urgent as a national issue in the interest of the public, that this is purely a personal issue. But that is not yet official. That is what I had gathered from Jacoyo Midiwo, but we are yet to get the official statement from Quad on what they've agreed on ahead of the motion this afternoon, Kirigo.
Alex, if this motion does go through, what happens next? Any repercussions we see ourselves facing?
This is just the first step. After the debate on the motion and assuming that it goes through, then the next step, according to the what Duale is presenting, is to introduce a bill that seeks to repeal the International Crimes Act that domesticated the Rome Statute. That will be the second step. Then, of course, there will be procedures on what the government should do in terms of writing to the relevant international authorities like the UN Security Council. And there are other legal procedures, I understand, that are guided under the Vienna Convention, which will be guiding the next step. So this is just the first step. I think it will take a while because according to the paper I've seen, the introduction of the bill seeking to repeal the International Crimes Act will be introduced within 30 days after the passing of the motion today, Kirigo.
All right, Alex, before I let you go, last night in your news piece, you informed us that at least 90 members of parliament are expected to travel with Deputy President William Ruto. Do you have any updates for us regarding their travel plans?
First of all, Kirigo, next week from this Sunday, there will be a retreat in Kwale of members of parliament, an induction of members of parliament, and a deliberation on what has been achieved so far as legislation within the context of two houses is concerned. And because of that retreat, I spoke to the majority leader, Eden Duale, who told me those who are going to The Hague will not go in one group. He expects that at least 90 members of parliament will be accompanying the deputy president, but not all of them will go at the same time. They will go in three groups. First, 30 members of parliament who will leave on Monday. They will come back on Friday, and then another 30 will be leaving next Saturday, and after a week, another 30, so as not to affect any other business that may be happening back here home, like the retreat in Kwale. What I've gathered is that 76 MPs were expected to collect their visas from the Royal Netherlands Embassy today. We are yet to find out if they managed to get their visas. 18 more were expected to put in their forms, the application forms for the visas. Among those 18 is Honorable Duale himself, and he told me that in the group there are at least 4 members of CORD Kirigo.
All right, thank you very much, Alex Chamwada, for that. Speaking to Alex Chamwada, coming to us live from the Parliament buildings, where Parliament is set to convene for a special sitting this afternoon to debate a motion seeking to have Kenya pull out of the Rome Statute. Let's move on. And ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda says the court is closing in on those who are behind witness intimidation and tampering. The prosecutor concedes that those behind witness withdrawal are very tactful. Bensouda's remarks come as the court prepares for the hearing of cases against Deputy President William Ruto and journalist Joshua Sang, set to commence next Tuesday.
With the International Criminal Court's focus now shifting to the Kenyan cases before it,
the International Criminal Court is now in session.
The challenge of witnesses recanting their testimonies barely 4 days to the beginning of the trial of Deputy President William Ruto and former broadcaster Joshua Arap Sang threatens prosecutor Fatou Bensouda's case. With the latest withdrawal yesterday of a witness on allegations of being forced to give false testimony and even being jailed for refusing to corroborate it. Bensouda says she has at least 40 witnesses to rely on, beside expert testimonies and audiovisual evidence. Bensouda also says the magnitude of witness intimidation is one that the ICC has never witnessed in its history.
Many of these witnesses have gone to great lengths to risk their lives and the lives of their relatives. Relatives of witnesses have been approached to disclose the whereabouts of witnesses or those perceived to be our witnesses. Incentives, including bribes, have been offered, and in some cases, threats and intimidations have been used to solicit information about our witnesses.
And thus the reason why she will go to any lengths to protect key witnesses in the case.
And this explains our request to the Chamber for delayed disclosure until the Witness Protection Unit has taken adequate protection measures, including removing the witnesses from Kenya.
The ICC prosecutor is warning of consequences for those intimidating or threatening the witnesses.
We are monitoring the situation closely and continuing to gather as much information as possible related to incidents involving our witnesses and the pressures our witnesses are encountering. We will take action based on the evidence.
All in all, Bensouda says she is set for the Tuesday trial. Witnesses in Ruto's case has fallen from 46 to now 39, while in President Uhuru's case, only 5 out of the original 12 witnesses are reportedly still on the prosecutor's list. The Kenyan cases at the ICC are unique in their own right, as it is the first time the ICC will be trying a sitting president and his deputy.
The government has set aside 3.3 billion shillings to resettle the remaining 8,000 internally displaced persons and forest evictees by the end of this month. The move coming a month since Deputy President William Ruto directed all ministries and institutions involved in the resettlement of IDPs and people evicted from forests to finalize the remaining phase of the resettlement program. The IDPs are set to receive 400,000 Kenyan shillings per household.
The proverbial canon promise remaining just that, a mere promise 6 years on following Kenya's bloody post-election turmoil for some of the internally displaced persons still living in such camps as Vumilia, Fumilia and Amani camps, taking refuge in temporary makeshifts years on. Such the predicament of displaced persons also at the Mau, Kieni, Embotutu and Kikurere forests, who reportedly encroached on forest land, waiting on a government they call their own to honor its word. The government now having put aside 3.3 billion shillings for their resettlement cause.
With this new approach, the IDPs will receive a cash payment of Kenya shillings 400,000 per household, paid into their accounts to support their resettlement. A sum of Kenya shillings 10,000 from the total sum will be given to each household to facilitate their logistical arrangements of vacating the camp.
The government has put the number of those resettled since 2009 at 8,014 IDPs as it seeks to resettle the remaining 8,298 IDPs.
Previously, the government would buy land to allocate to individual households for resettlement. Our focus this time is on self-resettlement and reconciliation. The aim is to give the IDPs an opportunity to make decisions on where to settle and make choices on the economic activities that they would wish to be engaged in.
A proposed schedule for the closure of IDPs and forest evictee camps will see all remaining IDPs resettled by end of the month.
We are going to have an initial camp closed in Eldoret, Mai Mahiu, and that is a camp Kembu in Mau Forest, and then the Mai Mahiu on the 7th of September 2013, with the remaining camps following closely thereafter.
One too many times the government has been compelled to silence the cries of internally displaced persons and forest evictees. The resettlement cause now what many of them hope will see the government honor its pledge. Salim Bilu, Citizen at 1.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has dismissed efforts by members of the National Assembly to exempt themselves from being regarded as state officers. Speaking during a breakfast meeting with editors, the chairperson of the Salaries Commission, Sarah Serem, said amending Article 260 of the Constitution with the aim of removing MPs from the list of state officers was irrelevant and would impact negatively on their commitment to implement the Constitution.
The past 3 years for the SRC have not been smooth sailing, even as its commissioners struggle to set and review the remuneration and benefits for all state officers. This emerged during the meeting of the commissioners and the editors Thursday morning, the latest headache being the move of members of parliament who want to amend Article 260 of the Constitution to achieve their objective.
If the people of Kenya then think that SRC is irrelevant, we will need to hear it from them. I don't think any other body of or agent of government, be it state officers or public, has a mandate to either disband, to remove, to do whatsoever it takes to deal with SRC.
According to the SRC, this will change the structure in which the Constitution has been laid.
If that is removed, then literally what you're saying is the Salaries and Remuneration Commission becomes irrelevant. What was the object of bringing in the SRC? I think the critical driver of the establishment was to remove the conflict of interest, which of course was the primary reason that brought in the wisdom of SRC.
In a give-and-take spirit, MPs agreed to drop their demands for a car grant at 7 million shillings and opted for 5 million shillings that the SRC had earlier set. A new pay structure for all state jobs will be carried out comprehensively at a later stage after SRC has revised pay for all civil servants, an exercise it has already embarked on.
What we finally settled in, except for car grant, the rest of the other items remained as they were. And car grant was something we gave in for reason that when these officers came in as state officers, they said we have an option. The option which is applicable to all other state officers is we have government-driven cars. The role of SRC was not to reduce or to cut. It was to objectively set.
For now, the SRC has set up a task force to harmonize other state officers' salaries at a cost of between 200 and 250 million shillings. It will take 2.5 years to complete. The wage bill for the year 2012-2013 is 415 billion shillings against the budget of 1.5 trillion shillings.
The Jubilee government has rolled out a plan that will ensure that various economic and governance services are accessible to every county resident from the comfort of their homes by making use of the readily available ICT infrastructure. In line with the Jubilee's manifesto, the government, through the Ministry of Information, Communications and Technology, has pledged to support the program dubbed PASHA that will ensure that the country has the necessary infrastructure to enable counties connect to the fiber optic cable. Speaking during the first inaugural County ICT Expo in Laikipia, Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i said his ministry will ensure that every county is connected to the network in order for residents to access online services offered by the government in the wake of devolution.
Our government is committed to the achievement of Vision 2030, and ICT is a critical enabler of all our programs in Vision 2030. We are determined to try as much as possible to support all parts of our country to deploy ICTs in the various services that are offered. We are working closely with county governments, and we want to support the county governments to ensure that we implement our national ICT master plan effectively across the country.
Let's go further afield, and a U.S. Senate committee has approved America's use of military force in Syria in response to an alleged chemical weapons attack. And now the Senate is expected to take a vote next week.
The proposal seeks to allow the United States use force in Syria for 60 days, with the possibility to extend it for 30 days. It prevents the use of U.S. troops on the ground. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry urged the Senate to act quickly, saying U.S. national security and international credibility was at stake. President Barack Obama, who is currently visiting Sweden, is battling to build support at home and abroad for military action. Thousands of Swedes joined peaceful demonstrations in Stockholm on Wednesday to oppose the planned use of force against Syria. Protesters held banners that read "No to Big Brother Obama." Despite Wednesday's vote, the bill's ultimate fate in the wider Senate is unclear, and the U.S. House of Representatives must also approve the measure. Liz Anyango, Citizen at 1.
Well, time to catch a breather now, but I'll be back with the Forex report. Bernard Andong will be joining us for sports news. Don't go too far.